For the people, by the people.
News First, face to face with Rasamanickam.
Very good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Face to Face, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is the 28th of February 2024. For the Newsfirst team, I am Rasamanickam, and this evening we have a guest who is a returning guest on Face to Face, one of the more youthful members of Parliament. He is none other than Member of Parliament Shanakiyan Rasamanickam of the Tamil National Alliance. A very good evening to you, Mr. Rasamanickam, and welcome back on the show.
Thank you, Jamal, and good evening to you and all the viewers as well.
Certainly. So, Mr. Rasamanickam, let's start off our conversation tonight on to something that clearly affects both you and I and also our viewers. If I may put it this way, the people of Sri Lanka are currently living in a haze. They do not know what will happen in the future. There are very high costs of living, taxes, both direct and indirect, that have soared over the past months. There's political instability, you might say, to a certain extent, because we do not know what sort of government is in power. Although there is a government in power, we do not know if they have the people's mandate, as the opposition has also pointed out. There are crimes taking place in the country and also national assets being divested or sold off and so on. So against all of this and against this backdrop, Mr. Rasamanickam, how long can Sri Lanka expect to continue on this knife edge?
Well, I think you've summarized all the issues in the country presently faced by most citizens. I think this is precisely what we said back in 2022 when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned and President Ranil Wickremesinghe took over. We knew that this trend would continue. I mean, today the dollar has somewhat gotten, rather the rupee has gotten slightly stronger. Shortages are no more. There's uninterrupted power supply. All that is true. And but how long can someone just use those few things as the reason for them staying in power, or for people to accept that they've done a great job when inflation is so much? Inflation is still, even though inflation has come down in this year,
yes,
the hyperinflation that we had, where the prices of goods have increased, tripled almost,
yes,
haven't really come down. So the salaries haven't increased
to match the cost of living.
So the answer to your question about how much longer will this continue for, I'm pretty sure we will have to continue like this till there's an election. And post-election also, it will take some time for whoever becomes president or forms a government, if it's parliament election, to get a proper plan in place for Sri Lanka. Because right now, we are just surviving, every day. Because IMF agreement on one hand, I mean, we have not heard of any updates. I remember when President Ranil Wickremesinghe took over, there used to be tweets where he would tweet every few days to give the country an update on what's going on, and I don't think there have been any updates as opposed to Gotabaya Rajapaksa's address the nation once in a while. I mean, we are all, even as members of parliament, unless we are really keen to find out, we are all kept in the dark. So to come out of this situation is the only way to come out of this situation is to attract foreign direct investments, and I think the government has failed to do so. I think and all these delegations going to meet world leaders and all that have just merely seem to be tours that ministers and delegates have enjoyed, and there hasn't really been anything that has actually come through those visits.
A meaningful outcome
that is tangible, that we can see. And also, we speak about, I mean, the tourism numbers, that is one of the things that the government, I saw yesterday also, foreign minister has said that we'll have a record 2.5 million tourists. But based on little information that we have, because the government's information that the government puts out, or the finance ministry or the central bank puts out, is very inadequate to actually make decisions or make assessments on the real situation is, but based on the information that was put out, the amount of money that was made through tourism income versus the number of tourist arrivals that was put out by the president, I think, if you look at that, it's only about $54 per tourist, irrespective of how long they've stayed in the country. So if a tourist had, on average, so do we really, if a tourist had stayed 10 days in the country, that's probably $5.40 USD that a tourist had spent over
per day
for the 10 days. $54 for 10. I mean, so a tourist, the number of tourist arrivals divided by the revenue that tourism has generated according to the government. If you divide the tourist arrivals by the amount of money that they claim to have, that it has brought into the country, when you divide that per tourist, it's only $54.
Right.
And I know some tourists have been here for months. So, that is, are we really attracting the right quality tourists? I mean, I saw, while I was on my way here, I saw a post where some tourists had posted on a group online, it's getting criticized heavily, where they have offered 6,000 rupees to go to the airport from Badua. And if there's anybody, so that 6,000 rupees is not even $20. So, are we attracting the right tourists? Just having a large number of tourists doesn't mean that, we are on the right path. So all of this can only come to, some change could happen through a change of the party or the person who's in charge, or even to bring political stability. So I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that whichever election that is, some predict that there could be parliament elections if the current president can't, doesn't seem confident enough to win, that he might dissolve parliament, and some feel that the president's election will happen first. Some feel that the executive presidency may get abolished. So a lot of speculation. As a member of parliament, I'm unfortunately I am just another citizen in this country in terms of insight that we have on what could happen with elections. But I think at least the beginning of the end, or beginning of the end of this suffering, can only happen through an election. Just having an election doesn't mean it's going to change things overnight, but at least we will have a fresh, new path that we can embark on. Yes.
Right. So, since you mentioned tourists, before we touch on the topic of elections, I want to ask you, because you represent Batticaloa, which is the eastern province, is a tourist hotspot during the season. We know Arugambe, Trincomalee, very pristine beaches where a lot of tourism is attracted to. Tourists flock to those areas. And today I was reading a news article where it said that certain tourists from multiple countries have arrived in those areas, and they are carrying out businesses, reading local businesses of vital revenue. So has your constituents reached out to you on that and flagged you on that matter? What do you have to say on that, first of all?
Well, let me correct you. In the eastern province, it's only Arugambe that gets a large number of tourists. But Arugambe has always had its own culture with tourism. We've never really seen the high-end tourists who come to Arugambe. It's been, I mean, nothing has changed in the last year or two. But whereas if you take Pasikuda or Trincomalee, we get the big spenders, because the hotels are bigger and hotels are nicer and the beaches are more. Pasikuda is a bay. But the tourists, the type of tourists we got to Arugambe has always remained the same. It's more the backpackers and the surfers. And there has been an economy there. But I think you must have read an article where there are tourists from Israel and tourists from Russia. This has become a problem. In fact, about a year ago, there was a situation where some locals were assaulted by some Russian tourists, and the locals were admitted to hospital.
I see.
And the police did not take action, and they were accused of being involved in the drugs trade of drugs. I don't know what sort of drugs. So I alerted the police at the time, and they said that yes, there was some complaints, but this is what happens when there is no real plan. I remember the market was opened up for Russians, and there were a large number of Russians who were brought in, and they were treated like some heads of states at the airport. They were welcome. I mean, at that time itself, initially, I mean, these are all consequences of that. And I think also there is an issue with now we have direct flights to Russia, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from Colombo. And the situation in Ukraine is such that where the people can go to Ukraine. So I think there is also a gazette, I read it somewhere, where Russians and Ukraine citizens were given free extensions on their visa. So I think these sort of things must be revisited now that I mean, true, Russia-Ukraine issue is a problem, but if it's on humanitarian grounds, it's a different matter. But if there is absolutely no restrictions on these people, tourists, so-called tourists, it is a problem, and it is not only in Arugambe. I've heard that it's become quite a problem in the south. There's some article that said there's some place called Little Moscow now in Unawatuna.
I see.
So these will have long-term implications on the country's
revenue streams.
More than the revenue stream, it's the country's ecosystem.
Right.
This is going to be a problem. So I really hope that the ministry in charge of tourism can take some action to address this. Otherwise, in a few years' time, we will have only certain level of tourists who don't. I mean, the tourists are a burden on this country's free system as well. The tourists are able to access free health. Tourists are able to access subsidized transport. Tourists are able to enjoy, the traffic has increased. So there is all these indirect costs that the government has to bear on behalf of these tourists. So, and if they don't even spend as much as
the government expects.
Based on their numbers, it's only $54 per tourist. That is if they stay, I'm saying one day. So if they stay 10 days, that is only $5.40 a day. So, this is something that really needs to be looked at. It's just not the numbers, but as always, our country, the misinformation and misleading the public has been always one of the biggest things that they do to, keep holding on to power. So the ministers boasting about tourism arrivals, as opposed to the revenue from it, is absolute joke.
Right. So speaking about keeping hold of power, your guess is as good as mine regarding what sort of election will be held this year. The government and its representatives keep on asserting that the presidential election will be held on time this year, and thereafter general election will be held. But the opposition has hit back and said that the government is playing certain tricks, trying to amend the constitution, trying to abolish executive presidency. They might not even have the presidential election. But if and when the presidential election is announced, what sort of trajectory will the TNA take? Who will you support or back as your presidential candidate? Because regularly in most presidential elections, we have seen a front runner, we can see. But this time around, it is quite dubious, or rather hazy to say the least, regarding who might eventually end up the victor at any sort of election, more probably a presidential election. So where does the TNA lie in this larger gamut of support of candidates?
So Amal, I think it's a bit too early for me to articulate a position on behalf of the TNA. We are yet to have discussions as the Tamil National Alliance on, like you said, it's not just with election, which election will come first. Even if even with the presidential election itself, even about the candidates, it's your guess as good as mine, because there's a lot of speculation and a lot of hearsay. So we can't as a TNA, we can't sit down and decide. But I can just give you an assessment that I have on what might happen. Look, last election, the Tamil vote was pretty much made irrelevant. Gota's campaign was that he can become the leader without any support from the Tamils or the Muslims, and was a hardcore Sinhala nationalist sort of campaign with this Ranavirua sort of slogan. But I think it was, Gota learnt it the hard way that he can't just be the president of one community. Till you get elected, you can, say whatever you want, but once you're elected, you're held accountable by, conventions that the country has ratified. There are so many other things. But I think, unlike the 2019 election, 2025 election is going to 24 election or 25 election is going to, it's whoever who is going to win will need the support of everybody. And I think it doesn't matter what to be upfront, we clearly see three people's names. So AKD has, Andrakumara Disanayaka has mentioned that he is the candidate of the NPP or JVP. And leader of the opposition has made it very clear that he is the candidate of SJB. And there is also Ranil Wickramasinghe's party, UMP, has said that that he's going to be their candidate in a grand alliance. So it doesn't matter what the three candidates have, what their positions have been on the Tamil people's issues in the past, because it is what their position is for the future.
Yes.
So for an example, in 2005, I know President Ranil Wickremesinghe even went to the extent of offering a federal constitution even
System,
in 2005. Honorable opposition leader spoke about devolution and Tamil people's issues in the 2019 run up to the 2019 election. So in the future, if there is an election, we need to know all three candidates, if there are more than all them as well.
Yes.
Have to articulate their position on, have to tell us what their position is on the issues that the Tamil people face, and it's a serious issue that needs to be resolved. It's been 75 plus years, and we are still talking about an arrangement where power can be shared, and it always becomes a hot topic pre-election, just to get the votes, and then that's what has happened in the past, and post-election various reasons are put forward to stop it. So I think as Tamil representatives, we need to be very, we would make sure that we speak to these leaders, and I'm pretty sure that none of the three leaders are going to say that they are not going to address this issue. But so we will have to see who, what their proposals are, and not only just that, we will have to see their grander alliance. So if they have people who have committed crimes against humanity supporting them, if there are people who've robbed this country in their alliances, it is not just the Tamil people's issue that we can't just because some crook comes forward and says we will resolve the Tamil people's issue and they absolutely
you can't give them a clean slate.
We can't. No, I mean more than that, we can't be. We're not going to be selfish as Tamil representatives.
Right.
We will think on behalf of the country about the greater good. So all that matters. But one of the things that I've seen is that something that there is this move. I'm not too sure who is supporting that or who would benefit out of it. Is to have a Tamil candidate contest for the presidential election.
Right.
Now this is a very serious situation where if there is a Tamil candidate, and it could be a Tamil, I mean, I don't know names. There's a lot of discussion and dialogue that's going around about a Tamil candidate being put forward.
Yes.
And with very, very extreme positions, for the Tamil people, knowing very well that it will serve absolutely no purpose for the country or even for the Tamil people, but it will fuel somebody else's campaign. So for an example, if somebody comes up with some, let's say, that power devolution is not enough, it's I don't know what the works are going to be, but if that could, that could sometimes, let's say, if hard positions are put forward and campaigning is done, and by chance the Tamil people actually vote for that, then the three candidates that we mentioned, the fight or the contest will be between them based on the votes in the rest of the country, barring the north and the east, barring the north Tamil speaking people. So in some case that could benefit some person, some case it could be not a benefit for someone, so disadvantage for someone. So we are very concerned about this development as well, because if at all, if something like that happens, we will in this country again, there might be a possibility where we are even further, how would I say, I can't come up with the word, but it'll make us even more
disjointed.
Yeah, something like that, so the words are coming to me right now.
No, I'm pretty sure viewers understand.
So it might not be a healthy situation as well. So I think we are very, I am as a member of parliament representing the Tamil people concerned about these sort of developments, because end of the day we shouldn't really use the votes of the Tamil people to benefit one person. If at all, it should benefit the entire nation, and also it should have unresolved issues of the Tamil people.
Equal prosperity for every single citizen. Clearly.
So we'll have to wait till it gets closer to see. But then also there is this prospect of parliament elections.
Yes.
And I mean, that might be a more likely scenario if the Pohottuwa SLPP put up their own candidate, and then SJB has their own candidate, and JVP has its own candidate, then President Wickremesinghe might not even have a party that has a organized grassroots level, up to the grassroots level, a party with all the machinery to
capable of winning a presidential election,
capable of coming close,
right?
So basically,
of mounting a challenge, proper challenge.
Yes, because SLPP, SJB, and JVP all have a base,
right?
I mean, SLPP's base is the formerly SLFP base. SJB's base, more or less, is the UNP base that came through. So, and I don't think President Wickremesinghe has done much to, rectify or strengthen the UNP's base since he's come as president. So, time will tell as to what election will come first, if the parliament election, because if it's a parliament election, I mean, president can upset the situation, and then. But thinking about the country, I don't know how
we can do it with a clear conscience.
Well, more than the conscience, I mean, as a country, we should all be concerned, because it's the lives of the people that is at stake. Instability will further make the countries, make the suffering much bigger. And even now, you mentioned about fuel prices and electricity prices. I've mentioned this in Parliament as well. The electricity prices could have been reduced. There was no need to increase the prices in November and December.
Right.
It was purely done because of now. Either you can say it's an inability of the Energy and Power Minister and his staff to figure out what the rainfall was.
Yes.
Based on the rainfall, there was predictions where the rainfall is going to be high.
Yes.
So there was no need to increase the power and energy, the electricity cost. But now I was told that they'll reduce it by New Year. So
but now Sri Lanka is facing a dry spell once again.
Well, we are facing a dry spell once again. But I think the price drop, even if it happens, will happen purely for the benefit of
gaining
political mileage. So that shouldn't be the case. It should be more about the suffering of the people.
Passing the benefit on to the people at the right time.
When possible, at least, I mean, at least, January is a tough time for all families who have kids.
Yes.
The new term of school starts, and, it's
it's a new year.
It's a new year. So at that time, if there was any, and in December is a festive season, people like to go on
travel
trips and
around, yes.
not at least to visit their friends and family. So not being so insensitive and just purely thinking about political mileage, I think the repercussions will come, I would say, in upcoming elections.
Right, certainly very vociferous about all matters of the state. Let's very quickly touch upon the regional impact of Sri Lanka as a player, and also the superpowers in our region, particularly India. We know that India's influence has been growing over the years, especially since India supported Sri Lanka during the crisis. And the main concern now is the strained relationship between India when it comes to the fishermen's issue. The fishermen of India and Sri Lanka are at loggerheads and have been for such a long time. Does there seem to be any sort of resolution for this matter, Mr. Rasamanickam? In your eyes, you have protested against this. You have called for conflict resolution in this matter. But in your eyes, do you believe that this will be resolved at any point if there is proper intervention?
Well, this particular issue is something that can easily be resolved if we enforce the law. You see, I was watching the District Development Council meeting for Jaffna on social media, where elected members of, because this Indian fisherman issue is more of a northern part of the Sri Lanka issue, less in the east, because the Indian trawlers don't come as far as Trinco or Vaticlo. So, I mean, this is not something that we face as an issue, but like you said, we even led a protest march using boats from Mullaitivu to Jaffna, protesting against it. So at the District Development Council meeting, some elected representatives from the northern province, from Jaffna, raised these concerns from the District Development Council chair, who also happens to be the Fisheries Minister for the country, Honorable Douglas Devananda. So at the time, the Navy commander for that area said that they're scared to go and implement the law. Now, this country, we talk about national security. There is, around 400,000 strong military in the country, and it is all about, protecting the nation and all that. But the naval commander for that area is saying that he's too scared to go, or their fleet is too scared to go and stop the illegal boats from coming into our waters.
Right.
So this is clearly a government's inability to implement the law. I know there are laws that have been enacted. Honorable Sumandiran was the one who was instrumental in enacting one of those laws, where if they are caught in Sri Lankan waters, where they are charged and their boats are confiscated. So if they do that with a few vessels, at least there'll be some sort of fear to cross the waters. We can't completely stop the fishermen coming, but at least there'll be a fear saying, if you go, then there's court proceedings, and so, and there is no way to, there could be instances where people cross the borders, international borders, unknowingly. But this has come to a point where, some of these trawlers come right to the northern, not the border. This is
Sri Lanka's territorial
coast.
waters.
No. The coast.
I see.
So where once I was in Jaffna, from the coast you could see the lights. And we were in Mannar in December, in January, early January, and one of the Sri Lankan fishermen who owns a boat, he said that we are not going today because it's the turn for the trawlers. So I actually thought that there was some understanding where Indian fishermen, and the Sri Lankan fishermen, to see the fishermen from Mannar now only go out to sea on the days that the Indian trawlers don't come.
Don't encroach, right.
They don't come to the Sri Lankan water. So it has come to that point. So this is something that the minister can enforce. But then we are told that there are parties within Sri Lanka also who engage in trawling, bottom trawling. And that's a huge market. And I remember in Parliament someone accused some minister also about being in on the deal, where they are taking a percentage of
commission.
So this is completely destroying the livelihood of the northern fishermen. So this is and I can be assured that the government of India's position is also not to destroy someone else's livelihood. So it is something that needs to be resolved. But over the last 4 years, I think Minister for Fisheries has been an MP and a minister elected from Jaffna. So the fact that he has done nothing tells you something. Being the fisheries, if I was in the position, if the government didn't let me resolve the issues of my people, I would resign from that post. And if he wants to be continuous minister, get some other minister. So, and also there is a sense of people think that him being a Tamil minister is one of the reasons why he's been appointed the Minister of Fisheries, because the Tamil Nadu government had any sort of sympathy towards the northern and eastern Tamil people. It causes a little bit of a friction between tensions between the two communities, the Tamils of the southern part of India and the Tamils of the northern part of Sri Lanka. So this should be really looked at without these political angles, and purely looked as impacting the livelihood of the fishermen on both sides also. If South Indian fishermen come here and get arrested and they are produced in court and they are charged with whatever, it impacts them as well. But it is a law of the country that needs to be implemented, and they need to be aware that if they cross these waters,
they will be penalized.
And if the Navy is they are saying too scared to go and stop Indian fishermen, what if some vessel from some other country that comes to capture Sri Lanka? So what's the point of even talking about boasting about national security and showing off at Golface on Independence Day when you are unable to go and
truly secure Sri Lanka's territorial integrity
from fishermen?
Right. Certainly. So
unarmed fishermen.
Certainly. So let's hope that all our political leaders make the genuine effort to take Sri Lanka to a better place internally and also regionally. My guest tonight was Shanakiyan Rasamanickam, Member of Parliament representing the TNA. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Rasamanickam.
Thank you.
And that's the way it was on Face to Face tonight. Take care and good night.